right, so hi everyone. This week, Jingshan and I, we looked at the topic of privacy, safety, and self-presentation. So the first article that we want to talk about is the clinical report, the one on the impact of social media on children, adolescents, and families. And this one was by O'Keefe and Clark Pearson. So we kind of wanted to go through each of the readings and then just talk about some of the points that we thought were interesting in the article, and ask some questions, and we'll see how this works. So, so my first question was that, as we saw in the article, social networking sites are a really large part of this generation's social and emotional development.
Sure.
And a lot of the studies show that there are frequent online expressions of offline behaviors. So I guess we're kind of wondering, like, does the internet enhance these behaviors? So what do you think?
I think that from my view, I think internet definitely enhance these behaviors. It's a very common situation that especially young people, teenagers, that the online interactions on social media takes a large part of their life, and they kind of like to post everything of their life, their real life, the offline behavior. So I think, and also with the development of the social media, that you have more and more open access to everyone across the world. I think it definitely enhanced these behaviors, and it actually reminds me article that I read recently on internet. It says that the YouTubers, the teenage YouTube celebrities, they have millions of followers on the internet, and most of them are teenagers as well. And all these YouTube and celebrities, they just post their daily life videos, and they didn't really do anything. They just do sports, a little bit talk, and they just got millions of feedbacks and fans and followers. So I think this kind of create a culture of this digital age that people like to share their real life. They make it more real on the online expressions, and this trend of culture definitely, I think, enhance this kind of behaviors. So what do you think?
Yeah, no, I agree. I think there's almost the line between online and offline is almost gone. It's like their lives are just like online, like they're
Right.
they live online almost.
Sure.
So it's a little bit scary, actually. I think, and that's why this issue of privacy and safety and everything comes up, because of the fact that those lines are so blurred. I'm not sure if they really know what's appropriate to be putting online anymore. They're so used to just their lives being there, they're being on the internet, that I wonder if they think beyond, or they even really think of those safety issues. Where back then, we may just have a circle of friends, and we would talk about things just within our friends, and we don't expect it to leave that group of friends. I mean, there's always the risk, but I think online there's an even greater risk, and I'm not sure if they realize that. I think a lot of the stuff, like you said, they share on YouTube, they may think that, oh, only my circle of friends may
Correct.
see it, and they're, I don't know if they realize that, it can easily be kind of released to the world. So it is like those lines have all been blurred. So I think it's particularly important these days that we do address, safety and privacy with, our students. And now, I guess because their lives are so online, that kind of leads into our second question, which is like the issue of Facebook depression, right? Like, so where was that? Oh, okay. So Facebook depression, is defined as depression that develops when preteens and teens spend a great deal of time on social media sites and then begin to exhibit classic symptoms of depression. So I guess when you're on Facebook and you see, all the examples of other people's lives, and you think that they're all great and wonderful,
right.
And you see all those pictures, and you think, oh, they must all be so happy. while I might be just sitting in a room by myself, and then I wonder if that like leads into that type of Facebook depression.
Yes, that's definitely a part of. It's also related to what we talked about last week. About I think they mentioned a statement that social media or Facebook is making us lonely. Um, it's definitely because when you spend too much time on Facebook, um, you feel like this kind of illusion that you have all the connections. You socialize with everyone. You're very popular. You have so many friends on your Facebook. But when it comes to real life, you feel much lonely because you cannot have really many connections as you have on the virtual world. Yeah.
And then, so how do we fight that? Like, I guess that's like one of the things I almost want to tell my students is like, just put down your phone. Go out there, go actually enjoy your life, have fun. What you see online is not always. It's an illusion. It's not
Right.
what you think it is.
It's easy to take actions, but it's really hard to make difference. But I think that as educators, especially teachers of high schools, of seniors and juniors of those teenagers, you have to teach them to improve their awareness of this kind of illusionary world on social media and to kind of force them to make real interaction, to make themselves more involved in real life. Um, I think that's a very big job for teachers, but it's very, very necessary for schools to do that.
Yes, definitely. And I think you're completely right. It may sound easy, but it's not really. It's hard to do. It's one thing to take action. So then the next question. So the concept of the digital footprint. So privacy concerns and the digital footprint. So it's becoming more of a concern, and I think this is a big thing because I think people are going on social media now at a younger and younger age. So your digital footprint is getting like, I guess, larger. I don't know if that's the right word, but and now I see all of my coworkers. They're putting pictures of their babies, or even before they're even born. You see, here's a picture of my fetus. Now here they are at 1 month, 2 month, 3 month, 2 year, 3 year, 4 year. So now your entire life is on social media before you're even born.
Man,
so now I feel like your digital footprint, like for the kids coming up, their digital footprint is going to start at the picture of your tummy. So it's like, I wonder then, like, how that's going to affect the kids in the future. I mean, right now, in the article it said that as a result of this digital footprint, future jobs and college acceptance, it may be put into jeopardy because of what they see online. However, now when your parents are putting things, they're starting your life on social media, like how will that then impact future employers? Will it just become the norm, that, oh, hey, everybody's life is just online, so it won't even be a concern anymore? Or is it actually going to make it a lot worse for these students or these kids coming up?
It's quite interesting that I haven't really think about this kind of footprints before they were actually born and how they're gonna affect them. Um, But there's another idea that they talk about the digital footprints is that for schools, um, it can be like they can actually make use of your digital footprint to see what kind of person you are. So they mentioned that teenagers or young people they sometimes fabricate their information on social media, right? But at the same time they also um, review or expose some real personal or private um, information of themselves on different social medias along this very long digital footprints of themselves. So it actually can be a good thing for like administration officers or school officers to um, like evaluate the real person that all the personalities or information left on your digital footprint.
And then I guess the next question is, do these parents really know how to keep their kids safe online? So, the article talks about a lot of things that parents can do to help keep their children safe, and what to do, what not to do. But sometimes I wonder if they even know what they're doing. You really wonder because of the way they behave. So so what do you think?
Generally, we think that parents are not good with social media, especially compared with their kids. And as it's said in this article, that there is participation gap, right, between parents and their kids. So I think it's quite hard for parents to completely know what their kids are doing, because it's kind of easy that that when we use social media, we can block our parents for posting something that we don't want them to see. I think it's quite hard, like, for parents to completely control, like, monitor their kids' behaviors.
I think it is enforcing, not really, I think it's really enforcing like trust and safety. I think that's what parents really do need to establish with their kids.
And it's also important to know that as parents, you cannot go to streams that completely forbidden your kids to using social media. I have friends that I know their parents are quite active on social media, and they make online interaction a lot with their kids on social media, and it works pretty well. And the kids, they're willing to talk with their parents on social media. So it's also a way that you should know that how you use it properly to engage with your kids online.
Yes, yeah, definitely.
So this is pretty much about what we want to talk about for the first article. So can we move to the second article?
Yes.
The second article was I have it here. It's called A Privacy Paradox: Social Networking in the United States. It was actually written in 2006, which is more than decades ago.
Yes.
Yeah, but I still think there are some concepts there worth talking about. So our first question is that it says that in an age of digital media, do we really have privacy? And since it was written in 2006, so we can think about from 2006 to now. Do you think the public awareness of privacy on social media is enhanced or not? So what's your idea about this?
That's a good question. I think I want to say yes. I want to say back then in 2006, I want to say overall the public was not as aware that if they're writing what they consider a private journal but online, that journal can easily be screenshotted and shared anywhere else, even if they think they're only targeting a few people. I think back then they didn't really have the awareness of how easily information that's posted online can be shared and can be proliferated so easily. I think students these days, I would want to say, are more aware of the issues. Not only do they keep coming up in the news, I think we do, at least in most school districts, I would hope that it is an issue that is addressed, and there's a general understanding of it now. But it's still a kind of an issue. I still think that the paradox is still there. And I think it's because I'm not really sure, honestly, because I'm not a big social media user. For me, I don't put my stuff online because I'm a very private person. So I know that if I put it online, I mean, the concept of online is that it's connected to everyone. Whether or not however I set my safety preferences or whatever my security settings, I still feel like it's still online. I know it's going to go out there. However, I don't know if kids really get that. It's like they understand it, but they don't get it. Like they understand the concept, but they think it won't happen to me. Like oh, I'll put my picture up there, it won't get out to the world. They don't think that it'll happen to them.
Well, I agree with the idea that it seems like kids know you should have privacy on social media, but they don't really, yeah, they don't really get it. And also, I remember there is a survey that mentioned in this article that they conduct surveys about what do you think. Do you think Facebook is protecting your privacy? And it turns out that kids said no. They know that Facebook is not safe. Facebook is collecting your personal information, but they don't seem like really care. All they care is about sharing my life, get likes, get reposts, and get feedbacks from my peers, and that's the most important things for them.
Mm-hmm. Right.
As for the third question, I think it's also a kind of paradox I mentioned in the article is that we keep saying that parents should try to monitor your kids' behaviors in their like online journals, their posts, the pictures, oh, to monitor what they're doing. But there is other opinion um, that kids are intentionally do these things on social media in order to uh, prevent you from seeing the things that they want to say. So it's kind of like you should like respect them a little bit about their privacy. Like you shouldn't check their phones, their emails, as well as their diaries or online journals. So it creates another paradox that to what extent should parents. Okay, thank you.
Okay.
It should we have like to what extent we should give this um, permission to parents to see what their kids are doing on the internet, or should we give a like an age? So above what age should they have this rights to do without the monitoring from their parents? What do you think of this idea?
Yeah, I think it goes back to the issue of establishing trust with your child. I think it goes back to knowing that you taught them the appropriate things to do, that you taught them the right way to behave online, and having that trust. And I think if parents have that conversation with their kids, that it's up to them what age they decide to let their kids venture out on their own and to not have to check in on what they're doing and have to read their diary. Um, and I think that's hard for parents to do. I think it's hard for them to build that trust. And usually, I mean, it's like the first time a parent even, drops a kid off at the mall. You trust them to make the right decisions. You trust them not to go off with a stranger. I think that has to be a conversation that they have with their kids about behaving online too. Like that's an important conversation to have. How do you properly behave online? What should you put on there? What shouldn't you share? And once that trust is established, then they really should. I think that teens do have a right to that privacy, and parents should respect that.
Yeah, yeah, that's definitely. I think it's an issue of the trust between parents and kids. Yeah.
Yeah.
Um. So this article also talks about commercial marketers who access to your personal info to approach to you um, to make like advertisement for you, but also at the same time, school has this personal information online, but they access to it for different purpose. So what I was wondering is that do you think they are the same privacy problem, or should we give different permit for different institution or different people of these rights about teens' personal information online?
I think that's where age limit is probably necessary. I know for, generally it's 13. Um, that's a tricky issue. I think that they should not have access to teens' personal information. At least the commercial marketers should not. I mean, I know schools they have that access to the information, but it's like you said, it's for a completely different purpose. It's for the well-being of the student, and all teachers go through an intense process typically to get their certifications, and they have background checks and everything. So everything that the school, whenever the school is involved, it's usually there's a lot of red tape. The kids are usually pretty protected, but for commercial marketers to have access to that information, like if I were a parent, I would not be comfortable with them knowing that information about my teenagers. Okay, so this last one, study of self-presentation in light of Facebook. Mm-hmm. So there was a quote in the article that said, there seems to be an agreement that our offline identity affects our online identity. However, with exchange of culture and identity on the internet, especially on social network sites, it's quite possible that online presentation affects offline identity. So what do we think of this entire statement?
So I think that online identity and offline identity, they kind of affect each other. Usually we say that in a virtual world where you can make your own self-presentation online, people tend to like make the images more like the dream images that it's not real in real life. They make it very beautiful. They make an opposite sex. But I noticed that it's also that how you present yourself online will gradually influence how you behave in offline. I don't know if this is a proper example, but I know that some of my friends, they have this kind of boyfriend or girlfriend on the video games they play, and they have this kind of virtual community that they make this kind of romantic relationship, and it actually goes from online to offline, and they really take this person. It's a real person, but it's someone that very far away that you never meet them. You only see them in a video games, and you see this avatar of them. But you keep this relationship in real life. They actually think this person is my boyfriend, and we are having this romantic relationship. So I don't know if it's a proper example, but that reminds me that it's kind of reflection of your online self or online activities in your real life. So what do you think?
So I do think it kind of goes back to what we were saying before about online and offline. That line is blurred almost. So yeah, a lot of the things you may want to present yourself some way online, and then as a result of that, maybe that isn't the way you are offline, but then as a result of how you want to be online, then that affects then what you become offline. Yeah. So I think there definitely is like almost everything's kind of entwined now with how much of our lives are online, and it affecting our offline behaviors. So I think a lot of times even we kind of saw it in this last election. I don't know if this is a good example either, but a lot of the teachers that we even in person we don't really talk about politics. Yet then online you see a completely different person come out, like somebody who's never vocal about politics is so vocal, and then it actually sometimes it does carry back into your real world, because then somebody may suddenly get mad at somebody online, and then now you weren't mad at them, or you because you didn't really know before, but then now after having a heated exchange online, it goes back offline, and now suddenly you're mad at your coworker because you have different political views, but you wouldn't have known that until that was how you presented it online. I'm not sure if that's the greatest example, but I think there is a lot of kind of mixed back and forth between how you present yourself online, and then how that affects your offline identity. And then so that goes into the second question, which was the quote in the article that said, "Life is very much acting because a performer may take on any role he or she wants. Front stage, backstage distinction helps account for why people behave differently in different places." So I guess my question there, so he was making the point that, um, your whole life you really are kind of an actor, depending on what situation you're in, right? So you act one way in work, you act another way, with your family, you act another way at home with your husband. But then, so do people act differently in different online areas or in different social networking sites? Do you think they also behave differently online?
I do. I think it definitely there are different type of social media. We know that it's definitely different between Facebook and LinkedIn. Between Instagram is also different from Facebook. So and it, I think it's unconsciously that people like to post that filtered, beautiful pictures on Instagram rather than other social media. So
Right.
it's kind of like trend. Um, and people like to show their positive, beautiful side of yourself on Instagram, but probably on your Facebook, it's like more real version of you. You share more pictures and things that in your real life, and also there is other social media like LinkedIn is more professional. It's academic that you use it for very serious purpose, like finding a job, socialize with people that can help you in your career. So it's definitely it's kind of becomes a like unique feature of each social media platform, and then it also like drives people to behave differently on different social media.
Hmm. Yeah, I definitely agree. Yeah. um, and I think that, like, I kind of just sometimes wonder then, like, are we always acting? I mean, you sometimes do wonder about that statement. Where is the real you? Like, I think about even when I'm at work. I mean, I feel like I'm myself, but would I say things to my coworkers that I would say things that I would say to my husband?
Mm-hmm.
Not really. But then, am I acting then? Like, that's am I being the real me? I feel like I am, but then again, maybe I'm not.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's
So.
yeah. So that's pretty much about what we want to share about this week's readings, and we. So Jennifer and I, we come up with some ideas for you to reflect on the ideas that we've been going through, and this weekend also we have some activities for you guys to do. So firstly, we we'll ask you guys to write a reflection about self-representation online. So you can follow these three questions that we give as the guidelines to write reflections and to post on Canvas. And then Jennifer and I, prepare two activities in the experience section for you to kind of dig into your own use of social media and relate it to the privacy issues. So you can choose either one from these two activities. First one is to choose a social media site that you predominantly use to analyze the footprint and try to reflect on it. The second activity is that we wanted to think about, have you ever um, come to some situations that you feel your privacy was violated on social media, and how would it influence your behavior, and what do you think the possible solutions are? And then the final task we have, a summary task, is that Jennifer found these very fascinating ideas, and she gave us some links about the article talking about this new law that allow the marketers and other third parties to access the personal data and information without the consent of U.S. Internet users. So we would like to hear about your ideas and attitudes about this. So we are trying to make this week's activities more fun. So there is not much writing task, so it seems like intimidating, but it's actually very fun and not much writing work. So we hope everyone can enjoy this experience.
Yes.
So
All right.
I'll see you guys on the Canvas discussion board.